All right, team, I think we should be good. At least I hope. I think I just had to reset some settings here on the live stream. But welcome, it is Friday, almost Saturday. Happy Friday to everybody. Hopefully you have some awesome weekend plans. Crazy day in the markets. Crazy day, a crazy week overall in the markets. Now, today was a very interesting day. Yes, because we had options expiration. I think we had all equity index options expiring today, I think at 8 p.m. So I think it totaled to over $2 trillion in options expiry. So pretty volatile stuff on Wall Street. Now, I will say, even though we are selling off quite a bit, I don't think that it's unexpected. Now, before we sort of dive right into it, we're reporting live, 200 Southeast Financial Center, right across from the Intercontinental Hotel. What I want to do on tonight's live stream is I want to visit every single one of my favorite buildings here in Miami, Florida. Let me know in the chat if we're buffering. I'm getting a lot of crazy signals on my, what's it called, stream here. We've been having a lot of crazy stuff with the live streaming software. Anyway, tonight we're going to be walking to all of my favorite buildings here in downtown Miami. I think I want to go to the Paramount building first. Then, obviously, on the way, we are going to walk past the Freedom Tower, one of my favorite buildings, the former FTX Arena. Obviously, everybody knows what happened with that. It is no longer called the FTX Arena after the big scandal with Sam Bankman-Fried. This building here is also one of my favorites. It's called 50 Biscayne. Really, really nice condominium, apartments, has really, really nice amenities. And it's close to all of the major office towers here in downtown Miami. One of the most popular ones being the 200 Southeast Financial Center, the Citigroup building, Wells Fargo Center, and the like. Now, we usually report live from the 20th floor, which is shared with the WeWorks office as well as Citadel Securities. But there was a big event going on in the office today, so we are starting off the stream on the ground floor. Let me see what is going on in the chat. I trust you all had a good week, and hopefully you have some nice plans for the weekend. Paul Greenwell is here. Good to see you. I see Mike C. Austin City Limits. Jay says, Tom, I own an apartment in the Paramount. Wow. Jay, the Paramount building is so unique, and when I first came to downtown Miami, that was the first building that really caught my eye. And the reason why I like it, it's a pretty good segue here to the Miami Tower, which we see all the time, very illuminated. Because as you'll see, and obviously Jay knows since he lives there, it has almost the entire side of the building is like sort of changes colors, right? And it's funny, it's because during election day, they had a big American flag banner there that said vote, which was pretty cool. For St. Patrick's Day, they had a bunch of shamrocks. So hopefully it's lit up for the holidays. We'll see. Smee Media, what's up? Good to see you. June says, Tom, the picture quality is great. You know, that's good to hear because yesterday we were having additional technical difficulties with the stream, and I think we were only broadcasting in 720p. So we're working on it. I think it's getting a little bit better. You could see that downtown Miami, right here on Flagler Street. They do have some holiday decorations. I think there's a Christmas tree at the end of the block here. Maybe we'll take a little bit of a tour down here. I see my good friend Vinny Castellano. Says, Tom, I finished chapter 6 of my book today. You know, Vinny, first of all, congratulations on that success. I'd be interested in reading it. If you, I'm not sure if you're typing it on Google Docs, if you want to share that. I'd love to proofread it, sort of give some feedback. But good to see you here. Kathy Lyons, my good friend, the Eyeglass Lady, is here. Welcome. Austin City Limits, Dan is here. Good to see you, Dan. Diamond Dave says, good evening. What a great night in Miami. Chad is here. Yeah, so everybody, it was a big options expiration day on Wall Street. I think all of the index options were set to expire today at 8 o'clock, New York time. So it was a very volatile day. But I will say this. I think the market is now just digesting the reality and coming to terms with the fact that we are going to be living in a higher interest rate environment for much longer than we expected or anticipated. Now, here's the reason why I said that. And today we heard from San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly. And usually Mary Daly tends to be a little bit more dovish as it relates, if you're going to compare them to different Fed presidents. She usually tends to lean on the dovish side of the house. But did you notice her comments today? Anybody was able to listen to her speech and notice some of those comments? She said that they could expect interest rates. Oh, look at this plane coming in overhead. You know, one of the cool things about being downtown is every single flight that takes off from Miami International, you could see it coming right across the bay here. Now, Mary Daly says, it's a pretty nice Christmas tree. I'm going to go 7.9. It's pretty solid. She said that interest rates could probably stay elevated all the way until 2024. When, if you talk to the vast majority of analysts and even economists on the street, they would tell you that the expectation is for the Fed to actually start cutting at the end of 2023. So if you're having one of the most dovish Fed presidents out there actually say that they're expecting interest rates to be held steady all the way into 2024, you know, I think that the market is going to have a coming to Jesus moment and have to come to peace with that, because I think we need to think about the further ramifications, not only as it relates to the stock market, but as it relates to the U.S. government debt too. You know, it's really interesting. I think maybe Mike C. brought this to our attention. It's a good point. You know, as the Fed raises rates, it's going to be more expensive for us to service our debt. Not only in the United States from the government standpoint, but a lot of these other companies as well that took on massive amounts of debt over the last 14 years. You know, we've been living in an environment for well over the past decade. I'll give you one more shot of 50 Biscayne of artificially suppressed rates. And as we reviewed when we were back in New York, when we were talking about the bond market, when money is relatively cheap across the spectrum from not only consumers, but corporations, corporates tend to take on more debt if it's cheap, right? And as debt gets more expensive, as money gets more expensive, there's a less likelihood that both consumers and corporates will take on additional debt. So that's going to slow the economy. But you know, as we've been talking about a lot of these zombie companies, I don't know if it's just going to be a reality for them to even manage to keep up on their payments and service the debt. So that's going to be a big issue, and I think it's going to be an issue for a lot of countries as well. Kathy Lyons, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Spider Blaze says, are you in New York? Nope. G is here, says Miami is absolutely beautiful. Good to see you, G. Austin City Limits says, Tom, can you read the chat a little bit better now? It's okay. It's not the best. So for those of you who don't know, we're running on a little bit of a different streaming software. It's called OBS Streamlabs. And you could still read the chat, but the chat is so small that I could just barely read it. This is a really nice view here. But I think it gets the job done. It's going all right. Potch says OBS is pretty good. I think OBS is pretty good if you're streaming, I think from like a traditional setup, like behind a desk or something. It's pretty good, but it's difficult to read on a mobile screen. So usually we are streaming from Prism, but I think Prism is having a lot of bugs. It's very buggy. So it's very difficult to read the comments, or if at all. Sally is here. Good to see you, Sally Mustafa. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Now, obviously today was Friday, so we had a weekly close across the board on all the major indices. You think about the S&P, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the NASDAQ. Now, on a daily time frame, notice on the S&P, which is pretty much the broad-based indice that everybody keeps a very close watchful eye on, we're getting turned away right at that 200-day moving average. So you have a declining 200-day that just so happened to coincide with the FOMC meeting. So I think you have a multitude of things playing out here. I think you have a secular bear market that is being driven predominantly by the Federal Reserve, sucking liquidity out of the market and continuing to raise rates. And you also have severe deterioration in the individual names. Now, the breadth of the market, and we always like to call this looking under the hood of the market. I'll quickly stop and I forget the name of this building here, but I think this is one of the newest additions to the downtown Miami skyline. It is another one of those super tall luxury apartment condominiums. And I think not too far away from here is going to be the brand new Waldorf Astoria building too, which is going to be amazing. It's going to be a half hotel, half condominium. And that's supposedly supposed to be the tallest residential apartment tower south of One World Trade Center. So that's going to be interesting. And this is the entrance to Bayfront Park, Bayside Marketplace. Hey, Joe Driver says, hello, Tom and team. Happy Friday. Layoffs are coming. With that being said, about companies and their departments by Q3 2023 foreclosures. Yeah, so I think the biggest announcement today is coming out of Lower Manhattan, 200 West Street, the headquarters of Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs has announced that they are going to be doing a possible reduction in workforce by about 8%, right? And I think last earnings report, so what was that, 3 weeks ago? I remember just covering it not too long ago. Goldman Sachs reported they had just under 50,000 employees, I think 49,200 to be exact. So 8% of that is what, about 4,000 people? I mean, which is horrible, right? You never want to hear anybody getting laid off. But if you've been watching Walks on Wall Street, we've been talking about this almost to the point of ad nauseum, especially as it relates to the largest investment banks, specifically Goldman Sachs. Now, if you think about the broad-based, let's just talk about the major mega banks, the bulge bracket investment banks. Now, Goldman Sachs is a very sought after and pristine company. However, they are the less diversified of all the investment banks, in my opinion. And we'll talk about why. This red building here is the Freedom Tower, one of my favorite buildings. But I think we're actually going to take a little bit of a detour and do one lap through the Bayside Marketplace. They have the Ferris wheel all lit up here as well. Mike C says they said 4,000 people right before Christmas. Very sad. Well, I think, so here's what I think they're going to do. And again, this is all very, very new information, so I don't know. So I never want to talk in definitives. What they'll probably do is wait to January just so these folks can get their bonus. Right? I think that would be very, very maniacal if they cut these people before the end of the year. I mean, that's what I would do, right? I mean, that's disgusting. If you have these people working 80 hours a week and you cut them right before they get their bonus, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the layoffs will probably be in January. Paramount Tower right there. Beautiful, beautiful addition to downtown Miami. Now, here's the reason why I argue that Goldman Sachs is less diversified than some of the major investment banks. Let's sort of compare JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America, right? And I think this really comes into play when we're talking about, what is the investment bank, right? A lot of people, you'd be surprised, don't really know the difference between the investment bank and the consumer bank. So Goldman Sachs, I'll give you, I think, the clearest example I could give. It's not like you could walk, down the streets in New York or down the streets in Miami and walk into a Goldman Sachs storefront, right, and open up a checking account. Goldman Sachs does not have a consumer banking division. Now, I will say, wow, this is actually a really nice setup here. Now, I will say over the years, Goldman Sachs, David Solomon, the CEO, has tried to make a very, very big push into the consumer retail banking division by a platform called Marcus by Goldman Sachs. But Marcus by Goldman Sachs pretty much turned out to be a failure, right? Not trying to be malicious in saying that. It just really hasn't taken off, and it's been a big money loser for the firm, so much so that David Solomon on the last earnings call was getting grilled by a lot of the analysts and investors. So if you think about what has transpired over the last 2 years on Wall Street, you're talking about absolute record-breaking profits for these investment banks in 2021. Well, why is that? Well, because if we think about the environment in 2021, we had the Federal Reserve with extreme accommodative monetary policy providing ample amount of liquidity to the marketplace, and that has sparked massive amounts of deal flow. I think 2021 was by far the most record-breaking year on Wall Street for new issues, IPOs. And Goldman Sachs is very, very heavily weighted towards equity capital markets and sales and trading. So if you think about how an investment bank makes money, they make tons of money on equity underwriting, debt issuance, advisory services for M&A business, and sales and trading. And yes, Goldman Sachs killed it the last 2 years because deal flow has been insane. But if you've been watching Walks on Wall Street, you guys already know that IPO activity is down 92%. It's pretty much just non-existent. There's no deals. There's no stocks becoming public in this environment. And Goldman Sachs doesn't have a consumer banking division to sort of hedge their bets on and make money, sort of like JP Morgan Chase does and Bank of America. And I think that's why you're seeing these layoffs at Goldman, probably about 4,000 people. They're probably all going to be in the Marcus by Goldman Sachs division and the like. Now, this thing is pretty interesting here. What do you think it is? Like a cherry or something like that? Hey, Dan Sang is here. Welcome, Dan. Frank the Tank. Good to see you, Frank. We are here at Bayside Marketplace in Miami, Florida. Mustafa, good to see you. Sinjib says, hey, Tom, welcome. Michael Joseph says, bear market, so goes the market, so goes the firm's employment. Yeah, and I think you're going to see traditional pure play investment banks that don't traditionally have exposure to consumer and retail banking take the biggest hit, right? I think JP Morgan Chase already cut about 1,000 people, but I think they're positioned to do a little bit better than a firm like Goldman. But again, it sucks to see anybody getting laid off, right? I mean, that's not what we want, but at the end of the day, when you have to answer the call to investors, Goldman Sachs shareholders are probably saying to CEO David Solomon that they are not on track to hit their profitability targets for the year. And that means you got to either cut headcount and trim the fat in the organization, especially if their bread and butter, the IPO market, their equity capital markets are suffering, right, for obvious reasons. Hey, Spencer is here. Says, hello, Tom from Silicon Valley. Good to see you, Spencer. Thank you for joining. Dusty Cole. Dusty, welcome to Bayside Marketplace. Using People says, what is your opinion about stop loss orders versus limit orders? Stop loss orders versus limit orders. I don't think those are two things that you can compare, right? A limit order is just, let's say if you wanted to buy Apple stock at $100.03, you would put a limit order in, and the order would only go through if the stock hits that exact amount, right? So you would fill at that exact amount. A market order is you just market buy and you get filled wherever the market maker fills you, right? But a stop loss, I think maybe you're just confusing the terminologies. A stop loss is just a risk management tool to say, all right, if the price of XYZ stock or commodity or bond goes below XYZ price, well, it's automatically going to sell that position. Hey, the LT Prod, what's up? Good to see you. Welcome. Dan Zhang says, Tom, gold has been pretty stable around 1800 level. Do you think it could spike back to 2000? And is this still a whole different, and is this still a sign of a weak dollar? Well, I mean, if you look at the Dixie, where did the Dixie close today? Did we close at like 104, I think? I think the Dixie closed at 104. And to your point, we're trading well below the 50-day moving average and the 200-day too. So obviously a weaker dollar is going to be bullish for gold. Now, I don't know if this is the perpetual top in the dollar, but I think you could pretty much say the dollar has at least put in a temporary top. Now, I don't have any exposure to gold, but I think your thesis is correct. You know, if the dollar continues to decline quite substantially, I think that would be bullish for gold, silver, and other precious metals too, like platinum and palladium. Robbie says, Tom, quick question. Are you excited for Christmas? I am. Very excited. What about you? John says, now with gold, do we buy the physical stuff? No, I think that's up to you, right? I mean, a lot of people, a lot of traders and PMs, when they're talking about buying gold, they buy the paper. It's, you know, on Wall Street, we use the terminology, the paper. So if you think about silver, you could buy ticker symbol SLV. The ETF for gold, I think, is GLD. But many would argue, right, and I would actually agree with this, that the paper market or the derivative is very much manipulated on Wall Street. And a lot of major investment banks have been forced to pay hundreds of millions of dollars of fines because they were proven guilty of manipulating the precious metals market. Well, look at the skyline of downtown Miami here. Dan says, I invest in gold but use ETFs of companies that mine it. The only reason is because I understand cash flow better than holding physical gold. Dan, that's interesting. And, you know, Peter Schiff has a very similar stance on investing in commodities and gold, similar to you, investing in the miners. I just don't have any exposure to it. And I think it's kind of hard to predict that stuff because it's very dependent on the price of the asset. So I don't know. I don't have any exposure. Vladimir, interesting question. Now, I think it really just depends on the situation. We'll answer once we get past the music here. Nicholas Dura says, Tom, did you hear that the NYPD has new sirens? I have not. I did not know they have new sirens. Interesting. Hey, Gary Carpenter, August Ice, welcome. I trust you're well. Now we're gonna head down the stairs near the Hard Rock, and you guys are gonna be able to see some really interesting, I guess you could call them fishing boats or yachts. We'll take a look at them, but this is the Ferris wheel here. Alright, so from here you're going to see a really, really nice view of downtown Miami. The Paramount building, you could actually see 1000 Museum from here too. Really, really nice view. Hopefully we could see some dolphins in the water too. Now somebody said, do you think it's appropriate or wise to ladder in the S&P, or do you think cash is king? I don't know. I think it really just depends on what your time horizon or time frame is, right? And I think that a lot of people get confused in this sort of regard, because let's say if you're running a long short portfolio, right? And you have clients to answer to, or example, you have a P&L to answer to at the end of the year. Well, that's going to be a very different answer than, you know, let's say if you're 25 years old, you're just starting your working career, and you're dollar cost averaging into the S&P 500 in a retirement account, right? I think those are two very, very different questions. Now, I would say this. If you are a college student that's just getting ready to graduate and enter into the workforce, this is a good time to start learning about how to open a traditional retirement account, how to open a brokerage account, and start investing, right? I mean, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ are off. I mean, the NASDAQ is down, 30% for the year, or from all-time record high, excuse me, and the S&P, I think, is down now 20%. So it's definitely better to ladder in at lower prices. And you have to be very careful when we're saying lower prices, because lower prices technically don't mean lower valuation. But again, I think it just depends on your time horizon. So this is the marina, a lot of really cool boats here. Hey, the Dark Horse here, good to see you. This is Tom. I moved to 85% cash this week. 2023 is going to be a bloodbath. I held 2 funds that are high dividend established funds I've owned for 15 years. I am in safe harbor. Good luck. Good luck, Dark Horse. I wish you all the best, my friend. Welcome to Miami. Perry Willix says, hey Tom, lovely night in Miami. Good to see you, Perry. Happy Friday to you. Now, I don't know about you guys. I tend to like the more peaceful side of Miami than the sort of party and really loud music stuff. Just really my opinion. Yeah, Joe Driver says horrible year for the markets. I agree 100%. But I think this is a good learning opportunity, right? And especially for a lot of people who are very new to the investment business and new to Wall Street in general. And I think you've really experienced the full market cycle, right? And just how the Federal Reserve and liquidity impacts financial markets by far. Because we've been talking about, obviously, number one, earnings drive the markets, right? And earnings drive the valuations, but liquidity drives the price. And right now you could tell, hopefully we see some manatees here. You usually can see some manatees in the water. We'll be on the lookout. You could usually see it'll pull up just like that. You see how it has like a ripple effect in the water? Let's see if we could see any. The trick is to look for the little pools that pop up. But yeah, like I said, liquidity is going to drive price, right? And we were just coming off the back of an additional 50 basis point rate hike, okay? So this is the fastest and most aggressive quantitative tightening cycle we've endured since 1994, since before I was born, right? So a lot of people got involved in this market during the COVID pandemic, and they thought they were geniuses, and they were just buying any stock on the exchange and it would go up. And now they're realizing that markets are very dynamic, and different stocks tend to perform differently depending on the macroeconomic environment and also the monetary policy environment we are in. And all the Fed presidents, we heard from two of them today. We heard from Fed President John Williams, the New York Fed president, and we also heard from San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly, coming across extremely hawkish. They're saying that they may need to hold interest rates above 5% all the way until 2024. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. Using people, yes, generally correct. Hey, Nicholas Durr is here. Good to see you. Welcome. Joe Driver. Good to see you. John says, great shot. John Hardaway says you should do YouTube short during the day so you could see it also. Yeah, it's hard for us to do any videos during the day because I work during the day. We usually just go live right after work. I usually tend to wrap up about 8:30. Dan Zhang says, wow, we definitely don't have that type of view in New York. It's a different type of view, right? I think it's peaceful here in the marina, sort of away from all the craziness and the pandemonium of the partying. But yeah, we're actually going to you have the beautiful Freedom Tower. And then as we pan to the other side, this is where we started the live stream at the 200 Southeast Financial Center. And then you can see the Ferris wheel right here, as well as 50 Biscayne. Dusty Cole, good to see you. Dr. Longus says I could see over 5% for that long. Now, here's where I think you're right, Dr. Longus, but here's my main concern. So if you had to ask me what my main concern was, and I've been repeating this over and over again, but I don't really think it's clicking to people. I don't think they know what it actually means to have rates sustained for a long duration, right? And this is why I've always said, to me, it doesn't really signify a Fed pivot if they're going to go from raising 75 basis points to raising 50 basis points or even 25. I really don't think it matters. What matters is the duration that rates are held relatively high. And 5% isn't even high. My friends, if you think about it, well, let's actually back up. Right now, after the 50 basis point rate hike we got 2 days ago, the Fed funds rate, or the target rate, is at 4.25% to 4.5%, right? So still negative in real terms, okay? Does everybody sort of understand that? Now, PMs and traders on Wall Street are really more concerned about the real interest rate or a real rate. And essentially, in basic terms, a real rate is the interest rate factoring in for inflation, right? So we just got the CPI number out, and that number was, what did it come in at? 7.1%. So if you have Fed funds at 4.25 and inflation's running at 7%, well, we're still living in an environment with negative rates, right? And many people, I would say the more aggressive hawks, let's say on Wall Street, are saying that in order for the Federal Reserve to really make a material impact and kill inflation, they're going to need to take the Fed funds rate to positive, factoring in inflation. So that would imply a 7% Fed funds rate. I don't know if it's going to get that high, but the reason why I'm concerned is because over the last 14 years, wow, this is a really beautiful view here too. Looks like they have the drawbridge up for some reason. I think the train actually goes over this, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so Brillski makes a good point. So Brillski says, Tom, you can't stop inflation rate of 7% plus with an interest rate of 5%. And real inflation, not government CPI, is well above 7%. I would agree with that, actually. I would agree with that. Here, let me give you guys one more shot. This is the Royal Caribbean cruise. So all back here is where all the major cruise ships take off. It's a really, really nice night, by the way. This is Pier 1. Wow, look at this. You could actually see a little bit of Brickell Key, too. So this is all downtown Miami. Obviously, you could see the 200 Southeast Financial Center, 50 Biscayne. But if you look all the way to the left, this is actually Brickell Key. Very nice place. Now, the problem is, over the past 14 years, corporates have gone on a debt acquisition binge, right? Especially a lot of these high beta, frothy SaaS companies, and a lot of companies within the Russell 2000, right, that are classified as zombie companies. And essentially, a zombie company, the only way it can self-sustain is to take on debt in perpetuity to finance its existing debt or to service its existing debt. And that works in an environment when money is cheap. But the script has flipped and money is no longer cheap. So I think the dark horse may have made a comment tonight saying that there could be some substantial bankruptcies down the pike. So if you think about refinancing your debt or want to go take on more debt to grow operations, that could put some of these companies under, which is I am very, very concerned about, let's just say. So Zozo Bob says, Tom, that is a rail line bridge that is always up until a cargo train is unloaded. Good to know. Good to know, my friend. Good to see you, Zozo Bob. I want to be GMO interesting. Yeah, Mars Tech is like you could jump to Cuba in a few days. Now, I think Cuba is, about 90 miles off the coast of Miami, I think? And Max, do you think Goldman Sachs is in trouble? I do not. I don't think Goldman Sachs is in trouble. I just think that their business is more heavily weighted towards equity capital markets, mergers and acquisitions, and they don't have a strong retail presence, right? So what I think you may be referring to is the big headline in the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg today, as well as CNBC, where they stated that Goldman Sachs is going to lay off about 4% of the workforce, right? It was either 4 or 8%. If anything, it was 4,000 people, which is horrible, but Goldman Sachs, if you think about the record-breaking profits they made in 2021, that was because deal flow was sick. It was unbelievable. I have some friends who work in New York at Goldman, right at 200 West Street, as investment bankers, and they were so busy, they were working like 70 hours a week, something crazy like that. And once the Fed started to do quantitative tightening, the IPO market ground to a halt, right? Does everybody remember watching CNBC and Bloomberg and all of these other financial channels during 2020, the latter half, I should say, in 2021? It seemed like there was a new company going public every day, right? Now, whenever a new company goes public, investment banks make a ridiculous amount of money on the advisory fees and the equity underwriting, a ridiculous amount. And once your clientele, once there's no more deal flow, well, you have investment banking revenues fall off a cliff. So what I suppose that happened is Goldman and a lot of the other pure play investment banks like Morgan Stanley and the like had to hire a ton of investment bankers to keep up with the demand, right? And they made a lot of money. I mean, there was record bonuses on Wall Street in 2021, but now that the IPO market is essentially done, like there's no companies going public, they got to lay off some employees, right, in order to meet their numbers for earnings. So, look, I think this is very normal in a business cycle. that I almost forgot. So even though the markets have been getting slammed this week, right, especially the last 2 days, is anybody noticing the action in the bond market? Now, for a massive sell-off of this scale, I would actually expect the bond market to be selling off more than it is. The 10-year U.S. Treasury yield is rather stable, and the yield curve, we'll wait till the music is past. Hey, good to see you. Frank the Tank. This is Tom. There's less traffic in Miami, so are you able to skate often? I'm actually not, which is a little bit of a bummer. There's actually more traffic here in some instances than in New York. I think you'd be surprised. And I think the drivers here are not very good. So it's a little bit dangerous to skate. But we'll know. All right, so let's exit Bayside Marketplace. John Apples says, so buy bonds. Well, I don't know. I would take a look at the TLT. Usually what happens during times of, let's say, economic stress, and this is why we're seeing the yield curve invert, by the way, right? So if you look at TLT, which is longer term bonds, you will usually see traders and portfolio managers, as well as, big institutional players, pension funds. And think about it in terms of managing liquidity, right? So if you're running money, let's actually go this way, and then it's going to be easier for us to get out. If you're running money and you believe that the economy is going to do good, corporate earnings are going to go up, well, you would want to sell longer term dated bonds, right? So why would you buy a 30-year bond and lock up your money for 30 years when you could buy risk assets like equities, right? You want to buy risk assets, you want to try to generate alpha. So that's why in normal times, you tend to see the yield curve normalize, or as they call it, a steep yield curve. So if you think about the correlation between bonds and yields, when you're selling bonds, the yields go up, and when you're buying bonds, yields go down. So if I'm a big institutional investor and I think that the economy is going to do great and corporate earnings are going to grow, well, I'm going to buy the short end of the curve. I'm going to buy maybe 1 month, 2 month bills, sell the long end, and then go long, risk assets, right, to try to generate alpha or outperform the market. But in a time like this, when everybody's talking about the yield curve inversion, well, the reason why the yield curve inverts is because capital allocators on Wall Street, money managers and PMs, are thinking the exact opposite, right? They're thinking, I'm more than happy to lock up my money longer term in long dated bonds at higher yields and sell my short term bonds. And again, as we know, if you're selling bonds, the yields go up, and if you're buying bonds, yields go down. So if everybody is selling the short end of the curve, well, the short end of the curve is going to go up. And if everybody's buying the long end of the curve, well, the long end of the curve is going to go down. And that's why right now, I mean, if you look at the 10 and the 2s, that is the most famous spread, right, that everybody looks at. The 10 and the 2s are very, very inverted right now. But I don't know. What is your take on the bond market? Yeah, Michael Joseph, I think it is fake, the tree. Dr. Longest' big sell-off on the way for bonds. Well, I don't know. Take a look. I wanted to ask you guys about this. So I'll tell you what I'm watching right now. If you go to tradingview.com or really anywhere I don't know. That's the charting software I use, mainly because it's free. But I don't know which charting software you guys use. Pull up a chart of JNK. Ticker symbol JNK. All right. So that is going to be the high yield bond market. So there's two types, I would say two classifications of bonds, and that is investment grade and non-investment grade. And the junk bond market is the high yield non-investment grade bond market. So corporates that are not doing too good and very, very high yield. This is a really nice view over here. It looks like the junk bond market is carving out another bear flag, as it's called, and really, really flashing warning signs of a severe recession. So this is why a lot of the times I'll actually get emails of people that are not too happy. They're like, you're spending so much time talking about the bond market. Why are you doing that? I want to talk about stocks. I want to know which stock is this and that. And I would say you're putting the cart before the horse, right? It's more important to understand the bond market than to talk about the stock market, because the stock market is really just a mere derivative of the debt market, right? The stock market derives its value from the bond market anyway. Hey, Sabrina Fair, what's up? Good to see you. Michael Joseph says, yep, bond market hinting a major recession. It is. I mean, so if you type in on Google, cnbc.com/bonds, okay, cnbc.com/bonds, one of the things you'll see is the yield curve. It'll actually show you the curve, right? So all the way from 1 month bills, all the way to the 30-year bill. And you'll notice we're inverted all the way across the curve. All right, really quick, this is the Freedom Tower here in downtown Miami. And then in the back, you have the Paramount Tower. Ah, Mimi, interesting. So you bought them and you're gonna wait till see if the Fed pivots. Interesting. Okay, we're coming up on the FTX Arena. Well, not the FTX Arena. Should we just call it the American Airlines Arena again? I think we'll do that. Now, speaking of airlines, I have a question for you guys. I actually want some help here. So here's what I think I want to do. I think I want to pick one specific airline and stick with it. Obviously, I travel back and forth between New York City and Miami so frequently, and I tend to only use American Airlines. But I want to know, when you guys travel, what would you say is your preferred airline? Now, American Airlines, I think, is the most indebted airline there is. Oh, really quick, they just put these in all around Miami. So these are sort of like digital touchscreen where you can have navigation, you could access the internet, and also you could access free Wi-Fi too. I think they just put these in. They're all up and down Biscayne Boulevard. As well as sort of like an emergency call center. You could charge your phone. They have these all in New York City too. Michael says Delta. Well, I think there was some big breaking news on Wall Street. Didn't United place one of the biggest orders with Boeing for 737 jets in history? I think they bought like about 100 planes. Mike C says, when we lived in Washington State, it was Alaska. I want to be GMO, says JetBlue is in trouble. Interesting. The LT Prod, what's up? Says Tom, did you hear that JetBlue is warning holiday travel may not meet expectations? I did not hear that. I did not. So are you saying that they're predicting that holiday travel is going to be very light? It's going to come in lighter than expected? Hey, War Walker, what's up? Good to see you. Welcome. We are back in Miami. Now, LT Prod, it's interesting that you mentioned that because we did get some disappointing retail sales numbers out. And retail sales numbers missed the mark, and they actually came in below the street's expectations. But we'll talk about that in a moment. I'll try to show you guys the best view I can of the front of the American Airlines arena. Brick says the Boeing order was for 787 and 737 MAX planes. Yeah, I'm thinking about, because you know what's a little bit strange? So I fly American Airlines, and the planes are really not that nice. I mean, there's no like TV screens like they have on JetBlue. So I don't know, I fly so frequently that I think it would be appropriate for me to sort of pick one airline and stick with it, right? Because I think you can accumulate miles or whatnot. I don't know, I'm gonna have to figure it out. Maybe I'm gonna switch to United, but there's just no flights from New York to Florida on a lot of the airlines. American has the most frequent. Hey, Perry Kirby says Lifetime Delta, they are expensive most of the time. The Delta hub here in Salt Lake City. Interesting. Yeah, Zozo Bob's is just called the Miami Heat Arena. Yeah, notice Zozo Bob, check it out. They have the FTX logo all, it's off. It used to be illuminated every night, no longer. I know, I want to be GMO. Our airlines are horrible compared to the international airlines. I've noticed that. Now, I think I told you guys, I think this next flight, so I'm flying back to New York for the holidays, obviously. I'm going to spend Christmas with my family in New York. This will be my 30th flight, or 28th flight. I got to look. Something like that, something crazy. This year. And I've only had 2 instances this entire year where my flight wasn't either delayed or canceled. All year. It's insane. And you would think, I mean, a country like the United States, we would get our stuff together, but who knows? I know, Mike C says, you're surprised the FTX letters wasn't ripped down already. Well, it's ripped down off of the top, but it's not ripped down in the front, which is, yeah, I think that's a bad look. I think they got to take that down. Now, here's another view of the skyline. You can see the 1000 Museum building, which is one of my favorites. But this is one of my absolute favorites, the Paramount Towers. Paramount building right here. The LT Prod says the sign must be paid for by a certain date. You may be right. That's actually a good point. But I mean, if they're a fraud, I think it's just bad optics maybe to leave it up. I don't know, that's just me. Now, you know what I just found out as well? And we were talking about this a little bit yesterday. That SoFi, here is the beautiful Freedom Tower. I'll give you guys a shot of the palm trees. I know a lot of you email me saying that you love to look at the palm trees because you've never seen them before. Yeah, it's usually windy the closer we get to the water. I apologize for that. I gotta get a mic. But I guess SoFi sponsors an arena as well. I would be very careful for that company. Is probably going to go under too, if I had to put money on it, which I'm not, but if I had to bet, I think that company is going to go bust. Here's another one of these machines they've been putting up all over Miami. Now they have these in New York City too, but almost all the ones I walk by in New York City are busted. Hopefully that doesn't happen here. Decline in sales volume. I'll give you a hint. It relates to the housing market. Let's just say that. Mars, Texas. Tom, what phone model are you using? We are using the iPhone 13 mini. Hey, Dan is here. Good to see you. Welcome. So furniture and home furnishings were down 2.6%. And I think that's pretty obvious, right? If you think about it, if you look at all of the data that we have been analyzing on the live stream as it relates to the real estate market, specifically the National Association of Realtors, as they talk about their existing home sales, are falling off a cliff. So if a lot more people are declining to buy homes or not buying homes, well, then they're probably not going to be spending a lot of money on furniture to furnish those homes. So let's talk about Wayfair for a minute. If you look at Wayfair, ticker symbol W, the stock is down almost 90% from all-time record highs. And I think any major rally in that stock, so let's say if it rallies back to the 200-day or the 50-day moving average, I think that could be a pretty good short opportunity there, as well as Coinbase that we've been talking about. I think any material major rally back to the moving averages could probably be faded. But talk about some massive, massive moves in those stocks. Wayfair down 90%. Insane. I know the LT Prods is when we decide which companies to market sponsorships for our race car. Long-term financial health of the firm is always in consideration. I mean, it really should be. Now, something I'm a little bit disappointed about, and I don't want to go into it too in depth because we're still getting new information every day, but it seems as if, like here's the thing, right? It doesn't matter how much money somebody throws at you. If you're gonna have a sponsorship or promote a company, you should genuinely believe in the company and genuinely believe that the company is gonna do well. But it seems as if, one of the very famous sharks on Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, blatantly was just promoting the company because they were giving him a ridiculous amount of money. I think he was paid about $17 million to promote FTX. And as it's coming out and showing, this is all brand new, by the way. This actually just opened. If you remember from our previous Miami live streams, this was all under scaffolding. This looks really good. Take a look in the inside of some of these brand new apartment buildings. Really, really nice lobby space here. But it seems as if, again, allegedly, that Kevin O'Leary really didn't believe in this company, right? Because, I mean, let's just face it, right? And let's just sort of reason with things. Kevin O'Leary is not a stupid guy, okay? He's a billionaire. He sold his company, the learning company, to Mattel for several $1 billion. He is not a stupid guy, okay? And it's pretty apparent to me that he didn't do any material due diligence on the company, because with his resources and his pull and his name, he could have easily done due diligence on this company with the resources and the smarts that he has to really just uncover that it was a fraud. But I guess he was paid $17 million. So, I mean, look, if somebody's going to wave $17 million in front of your face and say, hey, promote this thing. Now, obviously, the ethical thing would be you should only promote something or accept a sponsorship if you actually truly believe in the company. But look, it seems as if that, Kevin O'Leary just took the $17 million. But again, allegedly. This is a really nice setup here too. Mike C says, I can see Tom Brady getting fooled. Mr. Wonderful should have known better. Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of the take that I have, Mike C. So a lot of these celebrities and like basketball players who have been promoting this FTX scandal, like they get a pass, I think. And the reason why I say that is because here's the thing. A lot of times when celebrities promote products, especially in the financial world, people need to realize that these people are celebrities, right? They are celebrities, they're athletes, they know, generally speaking, they tend to know nothing about finance, right? And I think a lot of people associate credibility with just somebody having a lot of money, right? But a lot of these celebrities, especially actors and models and things like that, they became wealthy through their business and through their talents of either acting or modeling or playing sports, not through their talents of managing money. Does that sort of make sense? So when you see Tom Brady, and I couldn't believe it and again, I don't really want to hammer on these guys too much. I really don't believe in that. But it's like, guys, are you really going to take, financial advice from a football player? He plays football. He's a very talented football player. He's not, a hedge fund manager or something like that. Anyway, but that's why I agree with Mike C. I agree with Mike C. that I think these athletes should get a pass because I honestly do think that they were duped. I think that Sam Bankman-Fried, this is an unbelievable space, by the way. They just opened this. And it is so clean. It looks like nothing is really here yet because it's all brand new construction, but they opened the walking path, which looks fantastic. Now, this is what I'll say. I think the athletes get a pass because they were just looking at all this money and they're like, oh my God, like they're going to pay me $17 million to promote this. Of course I'll do it. But anybody who has been involved in the traditional finance industry, they knew, I highly, highly believe at this point, they knew it was all nonsense. Because you guys have even heard me talk about it on the streams, like these altcoins are nonsense, right? And I don't manage hundreds of millions of dollars like these people do. I think that Sam Bankman-Fried was running such a scheme that he was using celebrities as useful idiots. Has anybody ever heard that term? I honestly think that Sam Bankman-Fried and Alameda Research were using these celebrities as the useful idiots to say, yeah, I'll give them, $15 million to promote our Ponzi scheme, right? Anyway, it's unfortunate. Michael Joseph says Tom O'Leary said he was talking to Sam Bankman-Fried up until he was arrested and kept asking where the money was. Yeah, I've been seeing bits and pieces of it. I've tried not to follow it because this is just going to be such a drawn out process that, it's really going to be a big time waster, but I understand why it's a big story. And I feel for those people who lost money. I really do. But at the end of the day, like, I can't spend all my time worrying about it. Wow, check this out. They did a really good job here. Hey, the Bandit, good to see ya. So everything over here used to be all blocked off with scaffolding. It seems like they just opened it. And they did a really, really good job. Everything is brand new. This looks like a restaurant they just opened too. Soup Key 1 says, I disagree because Shaq said he went all in.
Bye, thank you.
When he didn't really go all in. probably didn't spend a penny on FTX and made it false advertising, which is illegal. Yeah, again, I don't know like the specifics of it. Again, I've actually been blocking and muting a lot of these keywords. But at the end of the day, and I've got to be careful with my choice of words because I don't want to be insulting. But these, basketball stars, I think, especially now, they try to, when they retire, they try to sort of spin off a career that they're big, like savvy investors. And look, they could be, but I mean, look, man, this FTX thing was so blatant. I'll sort of just stop there. I honestly think that just Sam Bankman-Fried chose useful idiots to promote a Ponzi scheme. And it was pretty obvious. Hey, Audra says, hey, Tom, you're in Miami. I'll be there in 2 weeks. That's fantastic. I think you're going to have a really, really great time here. The weather's really nice. It's actually not too hot tonight either. Soup Key 1. I think there's major lawsuits, right? Like class action lawsuits against all the celebrities too. Anyway, I think at this point now, the due process is going to be taken, and there's going to be a ton of lawsuits for anybody who was, promoting this stuff. But I will say, I really don't think that everybody who was promoting it had malicious intent. I do think that there were people that, met Sam Bankman-Fried and got sold a bag of goods, especially unsavvy investors. So, I don't know. I think I'm still going to stick by this side where I agree with Mike C. that the vast majority of athletes kind of get a little bit of a pass, and hopefully they should learn from this. But savvy investors like Kevin O'Leary, I mean, he owns O'Leary Funds, right? The guy is not a stupid guy. I think we need to realize that, right? Kevin O'Leary is a sharp, very smart guy. You don't sell a company to Mattel for multi-billion dollars if you're stupid, okay? And has anybody ever seen the All In podcast? And Chamath, and I have some choice of words to say about him too, but Chamath said, look, we were offered a seat at the table at FTX for an investment. And Chamath said, look, this looked very, very sketchy. And we pretty much called Sam Bankman-Fried on his BS. And Sam Bankman-Fried turned around and told us to go F ourselves, right? And this was on the All In podcast. And, Chamath is a very savvy investor. He is not stupid, right? So if he can sniff out that it was a blatant fraud, I think Kevin O'Leary could as well. So. But look, at the end of the day, in the United States, you're innocent until proven guilty. So I don't really believe in saying that, everybody acted with malicious intent. We're going to find out, right? This is going to be probably one of the biggest court cases since Madoff. So we'll see. But again, I would just like to say, anytime in the cryptocurrency space, when you have one of these alternative coins, these altcoins that are attached to an exchange, even in my opinion with Binance, with their BNB coin, you got to stay away from that stuff because that is total just fugazi nonsense. And you really, really have to be careful with that. That's why I never had any money with FTX. But I did have a Binance account because there's really no other alternative if you wanted to trade different types of cryptos. Now, where I'm also concerned, and this is the Paramount Tower, by the way, a lot of big hedge funds were using FTX as custody. And if those funds are lost, I mean, whoa, man, that is going to be just, it's going to be nuts. And I think they are lost, in my opinion. Sabrina Fair is like, I'm going to create my own crypto called Sabrina Coin. Hilarious. So here we are, team, the Paramount Tower, Miami World Center. This is one of my favorite buildings in the entire downtown Miami. Really, really nice. It's also very expensive here too. But I think this building has over 3 swimming pools, something crazy. Wow, Brillski, really? This is Tom. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Sam Bankman-Fried goes free or gets less than a year in jail. Oh, I disagree. I hope not. I disagree, though. I think you'd be surprised with how long his sentence is going to be. But here's the entrance to the Paramount Tower. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you're new. We do these streams between New York City and Miami. We'd love to have you guys here. All right, so let's make a right here. And then I think we're actually gonna get on the Metro Mover and head back to Brickell. Hey, Zozo Bobs, it's Tom. Miami-Dade Transit got funding to start running trains up to Aventura Station on the Bright Line tracks. That is fantastic. I would probably take advantage of that. Now, I wouldn't say I live like super, super close there, but close enough to where I could probably take advantage of it. I think I would need to take the bus a couple stops. Well, I'd probably need to get on the 3 bus, take it to Aventura, and then get on the train, which may be worth it, actually. But then again, the bus gets me to downtown Miami in 30 minutes, so it's actually not too bad. Oh, they finally unveiled this. They uncovered it. The globe looks pretty cool. What do you guys think? I think it looks pretty cool. Fairways is given an 8.5. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Okay, so before I forget, I got to tell you guys something. But before that, I'll give you guys a behind the scenes look of 1000 Museum. Now, if you go to my Twitter page, if you follow at Walks Wall Street on Twitter, you'll sort of seen that I posted sort of like a comparison between 2018 and what we're seeing right now. Now, obviously we know that in 2018, leading up to the end of the year, right into Christmas Eve, the markets, or the general broad-based indices, think about the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average, all trading well below the 50 and 200 day, and then have went on to sort of have this cascading waterfall effect, diving 12% into the end of the year. Now, I'm seeing many similarities to 2022. And if you think about a Santa Claus rally, Santa Claus rallies almost always happen in bull markets. They almost never happen in bear markets, and we are in a very, very significant bear market. So I wouldn't be surprised, and take a look at the two charts that I posted, if we have a very similar event that we had in 2018, where markets sold off heavy on big volume into Christmas Eve, into the new year. And the reason why I say that is because breadth is deteriorating quite rapidly. And there's an old saying on Wall Street that the generals are the last ones to get shot. And almost every single mega cap tech stock that made up the broader base of the indices are down over 50%. I mean, Tesla has gotten crushed, and we've been calling this for a while. But Apple is really the only stock that is yet to really, really get clocked. And I think you're about to see some major, major selling there. Now, I could be wrong. You never know. But I think into the end of the year, I think there's going to be more de-risking. And I think you could see a potential cascade effect, and we could test the lows in the S&P 500. Now, if you look at the NASDAQ, we're almost pretty much already at the October low. I think the market put in a temporary bottom. What was it, October 19th, I think? We put in a little bit of a bottom. We had that bear market rally, but we're almost like 600 points off the low already for the NASDAQ. So I just wanted to bring that up. I didn't want to forget to say that. But, team, I always forget the time. I don't know what's going on. I think, I lose track of time when we're having so much fun, right? We've been streaming for an hour and a half, but we still have all the way have to go to, Brickell. We have to go all the way to Brickell. So we're going to take a little bit of a shortcut, and we are going to go on the Metro Mover, which should get us there in about 15 minutes, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. We do have to make, I think, 2 transfers, right? Or maybe 1 transfer. Hey, Abdullah, what's up? Good to see you. Happy Friday to you. This is the Park West station here. On the Metro Mover, we are going to be taking the Omni Loop. Pretty nice view from up here as well. Hey, GGNYC is here. Good to see you. War Walker, welcome. Robert. This is no train to miss here tonight, Tom, I know. DWG, welcome. I know, Mike sees his fastest hour and a half of my day. All right, so we're going to go this way. That means the train is going to come from that way. Team, I have another update. This is also some Twitter news here as well. So we know that Twitter is bleeding cash. I think Elon Musk tweeted that Twitter is losing $3 million a day. Was that the exact amount? Maybe somebody could help me out here. Allegedly, Twitter is losing $3 million a day. And Twitter, I think 2 years ago, bought a newsletter service called Review. They are shutting it down. So my newsletter is going to be out of commission, and I have to migrate the newsletter over to Substack. That's going to take me some time because I put in a request to export all of the email addresses. And it's going to be, I think, a day, 48 hours until I get that. So for anybody signed up to the newsletter, it will no longer be on Review. It's going to be on Substack. But I still have to... I think this thing stopped here for a minute, but I still have to migrate it. So I'm going to do that this weekend. All right, let's jump on the train. I think you guys are going to enjoy the Metro Mover. It's a lot different than the subway. It's a lot smaller. There's no seating, but hopefully you enjoy it anyway. right, let's see.
Please hold on. The train is approaching. Park West Station.
I think I get off not here, the next one, I think. No, Hawaii, this is free. The Metro Mover is free. So.
Please stand clear of the
Kevin
doors
Ramsey,
and
what's
hold
up?
handrails. This train will depart momentarily. The next stop is Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. Station. Exit here for Brightline. Please hold on. The train is approaching. Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. Station. Exit here for Brightline.
I think we get off here. No, one more.
This is Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. Station. Exit here for Brightline.
So you can see the Paramount Tower that we were just at.
Station. Exit here for Brightline. The next stop is Government Center Station. Transfer here for Metro Rail.
This is where we get off.
Metro Rail.
All right, team. So we are going to get the Brickell loop. It's going to be in 2 minutes. Hey, DWG, what's up? Roberts is very futuristic. Yeah, I think this is one of the most outdated stations, the government center, to be honest. But it still looks all right. Mike MTL says, Tom, have you ever streamed Key West? We haven't. The thing is, Key West is just so far. I think it's about a 2-hour trip from where we are here. But maybe we'll try it. We'll definitely have to try it. So we're just gonna get the same train, but on the Brickell loop here. Hey, Tom G says this is where I get off. Awesome. Oh, it's arriving right here. It's faster than I expected. I thought we were gonna have to wait 15, 20 minutes. All right, here it comes. I'm surprised that there's not a lot of people on it. Usually it's so packed for the Brickell loop, because usually everybody on Friday night goes to Brickell. We'll see. We'll try to get the front seat all the way in the front.
Government Center Station. Transfer here for Metro Rail.
I think it may be too dark to see, maybe.
Please stand clear of the doors and hold handrails. This train will depart momentarily.
Tom G, what's up?
The next stop is 3rd Street Station.
That's your face, man.
Two more stops.
This is 3rd Street Station. The next stop is River Walk Station.
I went down the one before. And it's like in the middle of nowhere.
Please hold on. The train is approaching. River Walk Station.
No, that's the thing I would just say. Next one is 8th Street. And it's Brickell City Center. Yeah, that's right. Brickell City Center.
2 more stops.
Visit Riverwalk Station. Please stand clear of the doors and hold the handrails. This train will depart momentarily.
You were fence, I just like the fence.
The next stop is 5th Street Station.
So in the distance, you can see Brickell City Center.
Please hold on. The train is approaching 5th Street Station.
Where are we? So this is another one. Oh, we have another one.
All right, one more.
It's changing. Do it again.
Two more.
Give me the address. Give me the address. What? Yeah, but why people like
Oh, that's the midnight.
I used to do
The next stop is Brickell City Center Station, 8th Street. Please hold on. The train is approaching. Brickell City Center Station, 8th Street.
All right, this is us.
Right before entering Miami, right? Miami Beach? Yeah, but like there's a bridge, like the Venetian Bridge, it stops right there, right?
Are you recording?
Hey, good to see you. All right. Vinny Castellano. So Vinny, I don't know if you saw my comment, but I would love to check out your book if you want to send me an email. I'm not sure if you're writing it on Google Docs or something like that. I would love to check it out. Fred X, welcome. Good to see you. We have made it to Brickell City Center. And this should take us to the northeastern side. Yeah, here we are. This is the Northern Trust building right here. Now, I think we made it right on time because I think it's going to start raining in about 15 minutes. We're supposed to have a massive, I shouldn't say massive, but pretty big storm moving into Miami. It's going to rain all weekend. I think it's going to rain almost all day tomorrow and Sunday, maybe a little bit into Monday as well. We'll see. All right, so I think we covered a lot tonight. We covered layoffs at Goldman Sachs. We covered some of the reasons why. We talked about the Fed funds rate. Fed funds rate is now at 4.25 to 4.5 after the 50 basis point rate hike. We talked about the two Fed presidents we heard from. San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly, And then the New York Fed president, John Williams. We heard from him. They're saying that interest rates could stay elevated well into 2024. Then we talked about the yield curve. Talk about an extremely aggressively inverted yield curve. That 10-year U.S. Treasury yield is yielding about 3.488%. The 2 years at 4.182%. This is the Jack Daniel's Christmas tree here. Yeah, Michael Joseph. We usually don't get off that in that section. So I was a little bit confused. We usually take the escalator. But now we are headed towards Brickell Village. Wow, Zozo Bob says, Tom, it's going to be very chilly. Temps in the 50s in Miami. Crazy. So Zozo Bob, is it supposed to be a complete washout the entire weekend? Because from what I'm seeing, supposedly starting in 15 minutes here, it's going to be pretty bad. Raining almost all weekend. So we'll see. Wow, Joe Driver says, Tom, it's going to be sunny in New York City all weekend. I think the weather all this week was pretty bad in New York, was it not? So this is what you call the SLS Lux Towers here in Brickell. We pretty much hit all my favorite buildings tonight. We saw the Freedom Tower, 1000 Museum, the Paramount Tower, SLS Lux Tower here, Brickell City Center. South Miami Avenue. Outer Havens to Syracuse, New York got it worse. How much snow did they get up there in Syracuse? Now here's an interesting thing. Talking about soccer, this weekend we obviously have the World Cup final. But the Syracuse University men's soccer team won the national championship, if you can believe that. Talk about an amazing accomplishment there. I think that's the first time in program history that the SU men's soccer team won the national championship. Joe Driver says today only, it was cloudy yesterday. This is the infamous 25-minute traffic light. FedEx is the name. The locals are restless. Yeah, I think we're just gonna go. We've been patient long enough, right? Wow, Syracuse got 8 to 12 inches last night. Oh my God. And I think they're just coming off a major snowstorm too. They must have over 2 feet of snow on the ground. That's horrible, man. So we're headed towards Marriott Brickell Village. Here's sort of the parking garage roundabout of the SLS Lux Tower. Dusty Cole says, who do you got on Sunday? I gotta go with Argentina. And I'm not really a big Argentina fan, but I don't think we can allow France to win back-to-back World Cups. I just don't even think that's legal. And I think Leo Messi is a good guy. I mean, he's been working hard. He's the greatest player on earth. So hopefully he wins. I think Di Maria also, this may be his last professional game of his career. So what a way to end it with the World Cup win. So hopefully they win. Hopefully they pull off the W. What about you, Dusty? Who do you predict is going to win the World Cup? Now, I want to point out another building here. As you look across the street from Moxie's, this building right here is the tallest residential apartment building in Miami. It is the Paramount Tower. Joan K says Argentina. I think the majority of the Walks on Wall Street chat wants Argentina to win. I ran a Twitter poll the other day, and overwhelmingly, people seem to want Argentina, want Leo Messi to win. South Miami Avenue and Southeast 9th Street. Let's walk to the end here. And we will wrap it at the end of the block. This weekend, I'm going to be busy creating our Substack channel, obviously, because review will be taken down. So I'll keep you guys updated on that.
Let's play this whole thing out.
Now, I think all of this is going to be torn down. Anything in Marriott Brickell Village is going to be torn down. And supposedly there's going to be these ultra tall, super luxury buildings, kind of like how these are here near the Equinox. Yeah, Mike C. Mbappe has a good name. I think he's only 22 years old too, right? Hey, Fun Feeds, good to see you. Welcome. You know, let's take a left here. I don't think we ever made a left here before. I don't think I've ever walked down this far. Hey, Fabio is here from Brazil. Says, hey Tom, really cool in Miami, never been. I will visit soon. In your opinion, where do you think the most, where do you like the most? Your passion, New York City, Miami. I think the best two places for me to live is splitting my time between New York City and Miami. Now, I firmly believe, wherever you want to live, you should pick two places and you should try really, really hard to figure out how to, build your life in a way where you could afford to live in the two places that you really want to be most. And for me, that's New York City and Miami, Florida. Now, one of the things you'll notice also about Miami is there's a lot of New Yorkers here. So it seems like you don't even leave New York when you come here. Lots of people, especially from Long Island, the boroughs like Brooklyn and the Bronx, have second places here. So I think for me, it's very convenient to have two locations, mainly because my clients, a lot of the clients that I deal with are here as well. Yes, Michael Joseph, Sunny Isles Beach. I was there today actually for a little bit. My place isn't too far away from Sunny Isles Beach. It's about maybe a 15-minute bike ride from where I live.
Well, at least the car was able to.
The only thing about living in, I would say, Brickell, is it floods a lot down here. So I think you need to be aware of that, especially if you're thinking about moving down. Yeah, the Bandit is right too, and it's close, right? So 2.5 hours, I jump on a plane and I'm back in New York. So very, very efficient in that regard. Here is the last building I wanted to show you guys. This is the additional SLS Lux Tower. Now, when we get close to it, you'll see pretty much the real reason why I like it. Really, really unique architecture. But last night on the stream, we were talking about how crazy all of the rental prices were, not only in New York, but Miami, and pretty much across the country too. This is some of the most expensive real estate in the country right here in the Brickell location. Very, very comparable rents to the likes of Manhattan, if you could believe that. I think a one-bedroom apartment in and around here could go for $3,000 for an affordable place. But then again, it's close to everything, right? You have pretty much a restaurant on every single corner. You don't even have to walk. You could just come right out from your apartment and you're pretty much near any type of cuisine you want. Yeah, Mark Sage says, Tom, it's nice to see that you're back in warm weather. It's definitely a nice break, Mark, I'm not gonna lie. The first day I was back in Miami, it's just you feel different. You feel more relaxed. You feel more energized. And I think it makes me more efficient at work if I had to say so. It's nice to get a break from the constant dreariness of New York City winters, for sure. Very blessed to be able to do that. This is a nice building. It's called 1080 Brickell, the Bond. Yeah, Michael Joseph says they need to build seawalls down there. Well, the funny thing is they have been, but it's not necessarily the seawalls. What's more important is installing the pumps, because what a lot of people don't realize about Miami, the majority of the flooding doesn't really come from the water coming over the flood walls or the storm surge walls. It actually comes from under, which is kind of strange to talk about, but it's true, because Miami is built on very porous limestone, right? So the city, they try to build a series of pumps to pump the water out during those times. This place is always packed. We walked past here last night. Ooh, Chan, I don't. I definitely don't skydive either.
I don't understand.
All right, here is the SLS Lux Tower. Yeah, Palmetti says it's worth the lifestyle. Look, wherever you live, if you really think about it, the way I look at it is any place that's desirable to live is going to have its drawdowns and setbacks, right? And if you think about really any major city in the United States where people want to live, they're on major waterways, right? And it's been like that for thousands of years, right? Major cities have always been built and towns have been built on waterways for obvious reasons. So people want to live in New York. You know, the drawdown is, you know, there's some high crime. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be expensive. It's a rough lifestyle. But at the end of the day, that's where a lot of the high-paying jobs are and people want to be, right? Here in Miami, it's, you know, paradise almost every day. But we have hurricanes here, and you could be flooded. You know, just look what happened this year with Hurricane Ian. It was devastating to many parts of Florida. There's just drawbacks to everything, I guess. Photos from around New York. Good to see ya. Oh, look at how cool the entrance is here. All right, team. Well, I think we covered a lot on this live stream. We covered a lot of ground. Very busy week on Wall Street. Tomorrow, we should be live. We may not be live. There's supposed to be a big rainstorm and a lot of wind that's supposed to hit Miami. So we may get rained out. So I give it about a 50% chance that we will be live tomorrow. If not, I'll try to put something out for you guys to consume. Or maybe we'll try to do an indoors live stream, something fun. If you enjoyed the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video. Hit the subscribe button if you are new. We do these live streams about 5 days per week between New York City and Miami. And we would love to have you guys along for the ride. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Now, this weekend is going to be very important because it's the World Cup final. Argentina, France. This is big stuff. So I'm going to be watching that. I actually moved my flight. I was going to be flying back to New York on Sunday. I'm like, there's no way I can do that because I just don't trust these airlines. I knew I was going to miss the flight and then I was going to miss the World Cup. So I'm actually flying back to New York on Monday. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to miss the World Cup. So I'm actually going to be taking off Sunday, which I hope all of you will be doing too. It's going to be a very historic day. Hopefully Leo Messi will take home the World Cup and enjoy your night. We'll see you tomorrow. Brian Fun Feeds, Tom G, appreciate it, War Walker, Jessica B, Vivian, Gigi NYC, Robert, Mohammed, photos from around New York, Sunshine After Rain, thank you so much, Ruby Falcone. This is the Wall Street of Miami, by the way. Joe Driver, Abdullah, Tom, Barry, Austin City Limits, FredX, Hawaii, thank you so much. I want to be GMO, thank you. And to the Mighty Bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there is always bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. Everybody, enjoy your weekend. We will see you tomorrow, hopefully, if it doesn't rain. If not, we'll probably see you Sunday or Monday. Please enjoy the World Cup. Take it easy, guys. Bye for now. Oh man. Looks like we're having technical difficulties trying to shut the stream down. Oh man. All right, I'll take you guys back. I'm walking back this way anyway.